Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar session. My name is Abdullah, and I'm the marketing manager here at WARDJET Systems. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. Today's webinar is on WARDJET APEX-90, our most advanced bevel cutting solution designed for applications, or actually manufacturers, dealing with steep angles, complex geometries, or demanding applications that push beyond the limits of traditional water jet cutting. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to talk about what makes APEX-90 unique, where does it fit in real-world manufacturing environments, and how can it help customers expand their cutting capabilities. You may also put in your questions in the chat or comment section onto your right. And if we're not able to get to your questions live, someone from our team will reach out to you afterwards. We're also joined by two members of our team who know the APEX-90 the most. Joining us today is Ben Adams, our product and engineering manager, Patrick Reddington, our regional sales manager. Gentlemen, I welcome you both, and if you can take a moment to introduce yourselves, starting with Patrick.
How's it going? My name is Patrick Reddington. I'm the regional sales manager for the Southeast USA. Previously with the company, I've spent about 7 years with service as well, and project management. So a wide variety of knowledge with 5-axis capability in the APEX-90.
All right. Morning. I'm Ben Adams. I joined WARDJET in 2004, built WaterJet #1, so I've done most of the things around here. These days I'm managing our engineering group, and I head up product management.
Thank you both for joining us. So Ben, let's begin with the basics. For those who may not know, what exactly is APEX-90, and what challenge was WARDJET trying to solve when it was developed?
Yeah, all right. So we've done a number of 5-axis mechanisms. The APEX-90 is our most recent one for our most challenging applications. So over the years, we've had a lot of generations. We occasionally on older systems would struggle with reach and parts that were large and had real tight angle cuts. And the APEX-90 is our answer to that challenge there. So there it is on screen. APEX-90 can do a full 90-degree cut, so it can cut horizontally. It's available on carriages with extra throws, so you've got extra tall parts. If you have overhung parts, you got to get underneath the flange. The APEX-90 is uniquely designed to reach into those hard-to-reach places and cut things that none of our other heads and a lot of heads in the industry just can't reach.
You mentioned that it's capable of cutting angles up to 90. So does that have any implications on the work envelope?
It does. So the APEX-90 is unique among our 5-axis heads, and then it's got a wrist pivot, so it will pivot the cutting head out. So when you get all the way over the edge of the travel and you want to pivot back into the work envelope, there's about a 6-inch zone there where the tip of your nozzle is now 6 inches towards the middle of the machine. So unlike an APEX-60 where you don't really need to think about it, you'll need to make sure that you have a little bit of room around the edges so you don't mount your part all the way over to the edge where you can't get all the way around it. Generally, you're going to want parts more centered in on your table for an APEX-90 application.
All right. So which machines is it available on? What series?
So the APEX-90 is on any of our M-Series machines, from the 2.5 by 2 meter small ones all the way up to you want a giant 15 meter long machine by 4 meters wide. Any of those can take APEX-90. And they can be stretched vertically as well if you have an extra tall part or maybe some mold trim application that you got to get underneath a part that's larger than your normal 12 inches.
All right. So customers who currently possess M-Series, can they retrofit an APEX-90 on?
Yeah, absolutely they could. We would talk about your application because it takes generally a more Z travel to get to your parts. We would come out with a carriage and we would talk to you about lifting your gantry up a little bit to make sure that we can reach all of the part that you need to reach. So you might have a 6-inch lift kit or so if you take off a normal 2D cutting head and you want to go to an APEX-90, but that's easily done.
Right. So as a product manager and engineering manager, what applications immediately come to your mind when somebody asks for APEX-90?
So often these fit a few areas. Aerospace is popular, military applications, defense. There's a lot of parts there, castings, large metal parts. Also, I mentioned earlier mold trim. If you're demolding a part, you got some flash. Maybe you've got some complicated mold lines that hit all sorts of odd angles, and you need to get over to 90 degrees in part of it, or you need to reach inside some tough to reach places. A lot of mold trim applications are popular as well.
Right. So as we all know, cutting with WARDJET, there's a little bit of taper. Is it capable of taper angle comps or tack?
It is, yeah. It'll hit any angle from plus or minus 90 degrees. So if you wanted just a slight angle for taper comp, it'll do that, yes.
Our audience may compare APEX-90 with APEX-60 or Infinite Winder. How do you differentiate those?
Yeah, so the Infinite Winder is a previous generation. Those applications are largely replaced by the APEX-60, which we're currently offering. The APEX-60 head is designed specifically to do taper compensation and bevel cutting on flat plate. So it doesn't have that wrist pivot, right? It doesn't have any of the lost motion. There's an image. So you have to think at all about your work envelope. And it's great in those applications, but because it doesn't have that wrist pivot, it can't reach some of those hard to reach places. So the APEX-90 covers everything that the APEX-60 doesn't. If you need to go past 60 degrees, or you've got a part that you just don't have the reach you need to on the APEX-60, the APEX-90 is the way to go.
Very nice. Patrick, would you like to add to that?
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Just got my microphone back. Hold on, I'm glitching out. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So it was differences between, customers. We were talking about APEX-90 versus APEX-60 and Infinite Winder from sales perspective out on the field,
Yep.
How do you
Sorry,
know the differences?
Couldn't hear. It was a little choppy there for a second. Yeah, so really obviously the differences between 90 and 60, it's really going to be application specific. I really think the question is going to be either what you are currently doing in-house, as well as what capability is. Bringing a WaterJet in-house in general can be advantageous in a lot of different ways to either innovate your current process as well as bring in new parts. And with that, when you're going into 5-axis as well, it really opens up the door for a lot of different options. We have a lot of customers who bring WaterJets in-house, bring 5-axis WaterJets in-house. And I think going with the 90 versus the 60 or vice versa is just really a question of what you're currently doing, what your current needs are, and what you want to do in the future.
All right, that really clarifies the innovation behind it. So Patrick, now Ben has walked us through, what really APEX-90 is. Tell me, how would you position it with a customer, someone who's looking for 5-axis capabilities? How would you start a conversation on that?
Well, really, if you're looking for a 5-axis, 1, do you currently have a part that you need a 5-axis for? 2, what's the angle that you need for the 5-axis? And 3, what are you trying to do with the machine? Are you looking to specifically get into a niche where you're going to need 90 degrees, or you currently have a product that you need 90 degrees versus 60 degrees? And I guess the real question is, what are you cutting? What do you need to be cutting? And where are you trying to go with it again?
Right. So do you see on the field, like talking to customers, do you see people purchasing APEX-90 for their existing or current flow works, or they're looking to future-proof their business? So just kind of prepare themselves for more complex jobs down the road.
I'd say it's about a 50-50 split. And we currently have customers who have innovated their in-house process already by adding an APEX-90 in. For instance, Ben touched on a little bit earlier about stamping and molding, oil pans. There's a lot of places that WaterJet over the years, the WaterJet head couldn't get cut into small places to cut at 90 degrees. So we have quite a few customers that do that currently with our heads with 90 degrees. And then, yeah, there are a lot of customers who are looking to bring stuff in-house, currently bidding on jobs or have recently won a job that need the capability of cutting 90 degrees.
All right. So I've also asked this question already. I've posed this question to Ben, but I want to get your insight as well from sales perspective. Which industries are more gravitated towards Apex 90?
I'd say the three big ones right now that I'm seeing are going to be aerospace, defense in general, just because it's a very long list of parts that they need to cut, a lot of different variety of materials, and automotive. Automotive has a lot of odd shaped parts, whether it's oil pans coming off a press, coming off a stamp. And with that specific application, just one I know off the top of my head that we currently do, with that specific application, they need a small compact head to get inside of the pan to cut the holes that they need to in the molds. So that's also a very large one for a 90 degrees capability. There's a lot of car parts that need that capability.
I'd add weld test to that. That's an application we see increasingly. A lot of robotic
Absolutely.
welds need qualified and tested. And so they'll take a robotic weld, they'll cut out a little coupon. This is great for reaching those kind of places. The other one that's popping up a little more, I'd say, is oil and gas. A lot of flanges, pipe work, that sort of thing. That's a great application for the Apex 90 if you have a vertical pipe with a flange at the top and you need to get underneath it and cut a little fish mouth in it or something like that.
All right. Oftentimes molds, there are small ones as well, but talking about mold trimming, can you have the part on the floor? I mean, this machine has a tank, but is there a possibility of mounting your part in a fixture on the floor and then you do the trimming? How would that process look like?
Yeah, for sure. We have some customers that have very tall parts, and they either need to water jet the whole, vertical length of it, or maybe just a piece at the top, but they need to stick it somewhere. And obviously, the tank is of lesser use if you're cutting at 90 degrees. You're not intersecting the tank. So we do have some customers that will put some fixturing on the floor. The nice thing about the M-Series, the tank is totally independent. So you could order an M-Series from us. You could cut 80% of your jobs on a tank that covers half of your travel. And you could, in the back half, you could leave some forklift access. You could just have no tank at all, trench your floor, whatever you want. And then just bring those large, tall parts. Maybe that's 20% of your work or 50% of your work. And when you need to, you can just come in there and you can gain access all the way around a large work area. Totally unique for most water jets to be able to do that.
Very nice. So like customers who would need a tank, they can have that and they can purchase a longer rail. Like you said, it's not limited. Since the tank is separate, you can have the mold or a fixture that you want to mount onto the floor for your taller parts. You can have it behind the tank.
Yep. You can have the best of both worlds on the M-Series. Maybe you only do 2D cutting and you do that over a tank in the front. Apex 90 is going to do just fine with that. But you have these, low volume or high profit jobs that you want to be able to do in the back, and you can drive them in the back and do them there too. So.
Very nice. So Patrick, tell me, like when you're talking to a customer, and what questions are they asking that really make you think that the application the customer is defining is really an Apex 90?
Angle, obviously. Angle is going to be the big one. Constraints, and I think the biggest question, well, I guess the end road, what it always leads to is what can and can't I do? That's ultimately the question. When you're talking about an investment, especially in 5-axis, what am I paying for, and what are my limitations moving forward? And generally, I generally give the same answer. I mean, obviously, you're going to have a material constraint in regard which water jet cutting in general. Heat tempered glass is the only material I know of that no water jet can cut. The second one is going to be space, as Ben touched earlier. Obviously, as you're tilting the head, you're going to run into a little bit of an envelope restriction there, just for safety concerns, as well as going into the side of the tank, going into the front of the tank, so on and so forth. And so just making sure that the machine that we tailor for you on the M-Series is big enough to handle the material. And then lastly is going to be, again, just going back to angle, is what's the capability, the max that I can do as well, which ultimately with the Apex 90, we can go up to 90 degrees.
All right. So we've talked about what Apex 90 is, where it fits, and the kind of application it was designed for. I want to touch base on the programming aspect of it. So Ben, what can you tell us about the part programming? Which CAD/CAM softwares do you use, and how easy it is?
Yeah, so you'll almost always use iGEMS for an Apex 90 application. ultimately we read standard G code. So if you have a preferred method, you can do that. But iGEMS is really fantastic. It'll handle all the WaterJet process concerns that you have. Also, it'll simulate the entire application. So Patrick was talking about vetting a project for APEX-90. The less flat your parts are, the more likely that an APEX-90 is going to be a good answer for you. So this is a good example here. It's got some bends. If you're trying to cut it in situ this way, it's not always obvious with the back end of your water jet where that's going to be pointing while you're water jetting. So if you've got bowl-shaped parts and things like that where you might have some clearance issues, we can run this now. We can run it through iGEMS and show you a simulation. You don't need a real machine to even see what this is going to look like, and it'll tell you exactly where you're going to have clearance. So, but iGEMS is really, I mean, it's fantastic software, and it'll take you all the way through with very little effort.
Would you use the same software for APEX-60 as well, or for your regular 2D cutting as well, or is it just primarily for 5-axis?
No, iGEMS is great for 2D applications as well. It's good for taper compensation. You know, there's not an application that you can't do with iGEMS on the WaterJet. If you have simpler applications, you may use WordCam. If you're just doing 2D cutting, if you're just doing taper compensation, we have other options that are also good fits for you. But for the APEX-90, iGEMS is the way to go.
All right, so tell me about the onboarding process. People who have not used or they only do 2D work, how easy it is for them to program 5-axis jobs.
It'll definitely be an extra step. It'll be a couple things that you're not used to. You're going to work more in 3D. You're going to be working with solid files instead of maybe flat DXF files. That might be new to some people. But really, iGEMS makes it very simple. I mean, it's all visual. You bring it in. We're getting kind of a good example here. And this is part of our training process. So we offer training on all these. If you end up with a machine with an APEX-90, someone from our applications team will be happy to go through and make sure that you're comfortable and familiar with all of these features.
All right. So there is a learning curve, but not as steep, right? So
No, yeah, and if you've explored 5-axis cutting on a WaterJet maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you'll be blown away. It is fundamentally different than it was. The advances in software are astounding. So some of the earlier applications that I worked on were frankly kind of a bear, right? Which is good if you had one of those machines. You know, you didn't have a lot of competition, but you really had to want to do something pretty badly to get the program to do it, or you were sitting there and you're sort of programming it, you know, step by step, and you're walking through making your own G code, kind of teaching it as you go. Those days, thankfully, are long in the past, and iGEMS is going to get this all set for you, and you're not going to be spending days out there, you know, worried about crashing your nozzle into your workpiece or whatever. So if you set it up with good models, if your parts match the digital models that you have, it's going to be much, much, much easier than it used to be.
Very nice. So we've talked about evaluating the program, and anyone out looking for a cutting technology, capability is not the only thing they consider. So maintenance and what it's like to own is another. So Patrick, what can you tell me about the maintenance aspect of it?
As you can see here, even in iGEMS, everything is pretty wide open on the APEX-90, very accessible, very easy to get to. You're going to have the same WaterJet consumables you normally would. Orifice, nozzle. If you're going water only, you're just going to have obviously the orifice. You're going to have some more stainless steel components. And obviously with 5-axis and just needing the capability to be able to rotate the head and turn the head, you're going to have some extra high pressure. So as for maintenance aspect of it, you're going to have your regular maintenance with, like I said, consumables, orifice and nozzle, and the only things you're really going to add onto there for regular maintenance is going to be some high pressure lines and some swivels, some high pressure swivels. Outside of that, mechanically, obviously you're going to have some motors to control axis and things like that, but that shouldn't be your everyday maintenance items.
All right, so Ben mentioned that with a nozzle, it goes tough area, and even you can preview the 5-axis job to know exactly where it's going to be cutting. For those accidental collisions, Ben, how would you recalibrate the unit, and where can you find the nozzle parts?
Yeah, so we calibrate everything in the factory, of course. So when it comes new, it's all set up, good to go. But if something does get dinged or slides around on you, whatever, The calibration process is pretty straightforward. It just involves you taking the nozzle out. There's a tooling ball that goes in place there. And through a dial indicator and a series of programmed moves, you can just tilt the head back and forth, take some readings. The controller is going to do all of the math, right? So it's going to make up for any tool length difference or any angular offsets you have. It's pretty easy to get you squared back up true to the machine and back to cutting parts again.
All right, for the consumables and nozzles, anything else for WARDJET needs, where can you purchase these parts? And like you said, it's pretty easy to change the nozzle, so a customer would want to purchase it from somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit more about where they can get these parts?
Sure, yeah, you get all the parts from CNC Shop, just like you would for a 2D water jet, and most of these parts are the same. So it's going to be the same orifices, same nozzles. If you're already buying there, it's going to be the same parts you're already used to.
All right, so CNC Shop, you can stop that. I mean, like, it's one-stop shop for all your CNC needs. You can buy also all your consumables, nozzles, parts, whatever you need. CNC Shop is the way to go.
Sure.
I forgot to ask you one more question. How often do you need to calibrate it? Yes, there's calibration, but there is calibration required monthly, weekly. What are we looking at?
It'll depend on your application. I'd say monthly is definitely as much as most people do it. If you have a very tight tolerance, you may want to do it more often just to kind of check. We have some customers that's their Monday morning routine. They come in, they calibrate it whether it needs it or not. But monthly or after an event is probably adequate for most people.
Very nice. I would like to actually bring in a question here from one of our viewers. Is the Apex-90 able to use pure water only cutting head?
Yeah, absolutely. We would swap that nozzle out and we would put the orifice down closer to the end. But that's great if you've got, especially like mold trim applications where pure water cutting is the best way to do that. Absolutely.
Very nice. So while we give a chance to our viewers to put some more questions in, I have some of the questions we've been talking to customers that they most commonly ask. So the first one on my list here is, what parts are taller? My parts are taller than 12 inches. Can I get an Apex-90 to cut them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the great things about the Apex-90 is we make them in different stretch lengths. So 12 inches of travel is the standard. And that 12 inches to us means I can cut at vertical or 90 degrees through an entire 12-inch window. All right, so it actually moves more than that. But if your parts are taller than that, we just stretch that entire Z mechanism there. So you can do 24, 36. We've even quoted 48-inch travel. And this is getting back to the, if you want to remove the tank at the bottom of the floor and reach down low, you could have a 48-inch tall weldment that you want to cut windows out of the side of, and we can reach all the way down the side of it. When that Apex-90 rotates out, it's important to note that it's now sticking out from the ram. So you can go all the way down and there's nothing to foul vertically with your part there. So that's one of the main things that this was designed to do, is reach out beyond its own carriage travel. So you can do a long vertical cut.
Right. At 90 degrees at the steeping.
Yep.
All right. The second one here, I've got really large parts and need to cut horizontal holes. Can I mount the part directly? Or actually, where did the question go? There it is. Can I mount the part directly to the floor, which we already have addressed?
Yep.
Let's
yep.
take
That's a great application.
Yeah. What kind of safety systems should I consider when cutting 90 degrees or so? When you're cutting at the steep angles, what kind of systems does it come with, or what should they consider if they already have a machine and they're looking for Apex-90?
Yeah, obviously, if you have a cutting head that's capable of pointing horizontally, you do need to be more concerned about the safety aspects of your machine and how it's all situated. The best way to do this is to put up some hard guarding, right? You can have a keep out zone about 12 or 15 feet away from the water jet and know that water jet stream is going to not be coherent to that point. But it's still going to be wet. It's still going to be noisy. It's still going to be a place you want to keep people out of, and it's still added risk. So most customers that have a dedicated application like this, a mold trim, they'll put the entire machine in a room, or they'll have some movable doors, maybe a quick roll-up door with some safety interlocks, and we can tie that into our system. So that's what we would recommend for most applications, is some sort of quick access door. Maybe you drive your parts in with a forklift, or you swing in a chip crane. Close the doors before you do it and put the controller on the outside is a great way to do it. So we have a number of options, and we're happy to talk to you about safety features and methods. But that's the simplest, easiest way to just ensure that you get a safe working environment.
So you mentioned automatic doors. Can these be retrofitted after the fact? So if a customer already has an M-Series, can they, obviously after purchasing APEX-90, or even if they're considering safety, can these be added onto their machines?
Yeah, certainly. We can install vertical automatic doors on any of the M-Series that are out there.
All right. What's the most impressive application you have seen by far? So this is two parts. So Ben, from your perspective as a product manager, and Pat, I would like to your input as well from sales.
Boy, most impressive. Most impressive one that I can talk about publicly, probably. This was not very practical, but one of our earlier 5-axis mechanisms, we had a 90-degree application. We bought a junked out car, and we actually drove it underneath a Waterjet machine. So this is a great big machine at 5 feet of travel. It was large enough that we could drive the car right underneath there, and we turned it into a convertible. Cut the entire roof off. Most of it was 90-degree cutting. I'm not sure that you'd want to drive that car afterwards. I'm not sure that's the application, but that was, I think, the most fun one that we've done. The other ones are impressive in that they are things that other Waterjets can't do. An M-Series with an APEX-90 is almost a different class of machine. It's not what you're going to typically see a job shop. So I've seen people cutting, huge bearing rings for windmill bases. So large roller bearings that are, maybe 6 feet around. You can get in there and cut pockets for all your roller bearings. I've seen recycling applications where people have stainless piping and they're cutting out, mesh size for recycling. There's some really good ones out there. Oil and gas, large fiberglass piping that needed cut at angles. So there's a lot of them out there. Am I missing any, Pat? You do any fun ones?
No, I will say, I just want to second, the turning the car into convertible is on our YouTube page. It is.
Okay.
It is. I love watching that video. It is on our YouTube page. And yes, I absolutely would not drive the car afterwards, but it is really cool to watch. That was a fun one. As for 90-degree application, personally, I have installed and worked on some machines that do quite a few parts in the automotive industry. I really like those ones because the tool path that you have to do in order to get into these spaces is very tight and very intricate. So it takes a little bit of thinking. I'd be very interested to do it today in iGEMS. I think it would be 10 times easier than it was maybe 100 times easier than it was 5-6 years ago, to be honest with you. I think what we have now makes it light years easier, but those are always fun. Some of the fiberglass parts is a good one. But I think my favorite, just personally, because I worked on it myself, was some of the oil pan stuff that we've done in the past. Getting the head inside of the pan and then being able to pivot and move without running into anything. It's intricate, it's fun, it's complicated. At the time, a lot easier now, but I really enjoyed that stuff.
Those are some interesting applications right there.
So whenever a student asks me about a Waterjet or they're not familiar, I tell them we turn a car into a convertible. So people often don't realize how big the machines we make can get. And so that's a great example. That one's fun.
Oh yeah, for our viewers, check out that video on our YouTube. Maybe our team in the back end can put the link in the chat for you guys to check it out. All right, so we have another question. This is actually from a customer who, while registering, he submitted this. So is the machine suitable for cutting material like plastic or rubber, considering that residue could potentially clog filtering quite easily?
Yeah, absolutely. Soft goods cutting, which I put plastics and rubbers and foams all into, is really a strength of WARDJET. We do a lot of applications there, and we're well familiar with how to get rid of that residue and kind of the floaty material, the kerf material that's left over from cutting. So we have a number of solutions for clearing your water overflow before it goes down the drain. You're right. A lot of that material you can't just dump down the drain, or you'll be hopelessly clogged pretty quickly. But that's work that we've been doing for a long time, and we have solutions for that.
Yep.
Happy to go over this.
Very nice. So next one here, interested in expanding our cutting capabilities, looking to upgrade an older WARDJET, special programming requirements versus current WARDJET E1530. Oh boy, that's an old one. Cutting low to medium density foams.
Yeah, it'll program in a similar way. We already touched a little bit on the travel that APEX-90 is going to eat on the sides. So if your parts need 90-degree cutting and they're the full 1.5 meters by 3 meter parts, you may not get everywhere that you want to get, but if they're smaller than that, there's a good chance you can reach that. You could talk to our aftermarket team. They'd be happy to talk to you about retrofitting newer equipment and newer 5-axis heads onto legacy equipment.
Very nice.
And high density foam, or medium and low density foam, similar to the previous question, not a problem at all. That's stuff that we do every day.
Bread and butter.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
I don't know whose idea this was, but I remember thinking at the time that it was silly, but I have talked about it more than I ever would have thought. So.
Oh, there it goes to show how massive machines can be, right?
Yep.
As you can see, it's separate. There's a tank right behind. That's exactly the application where we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
You have partially the tank, and then you can have a fixture for your molds. So there you have it. You look at the size of that machine. It's insane.
Yep.
All right, guys. Anybody else from our chat? Put in your questions, guys. Any clarity we would require on this product? If you're looking to purchase, you have some questions, feel free. This is your opportunity to speak to the experts live. So
I did want to just really quick. I did want to touch on I want to add a little something about the we had discussed about the safety systems as well, and integrating the safety systems. It's fairly easy for us to give signals to integrate with doors. We've done it plenty of times in the past, and usually that is a very.
Oh, you cut
sorry,
out.
Mike.
I thought it was me for a minute.
No, sorry, it's me. That is a very, very quick question to come up is with safety systems. If we're cutting 90 degrees, how safe is that? We can separate the controller into another room. There are a lot of things that we could do to make it easy and integrate with your current room system. That's
a strength as well, is third-party automation. That's something that we've got a lot of in our history, and we're happy to talk about it. So if you got man door, and you got light curtains, and you got a overhead door, and you want those all tied in, and you have to satisfy X, Y, and Z before you cut parts or whatever. Those are all applications we've done in the past, and we got a good team here that can put that all together and test and deliver that for you. Same thing with robotic loading, or you name it. If you got to tie into some third-party equipment, and you want our equipment to talk to that, cut your part and then hand it over to the next downstream process. We love that kind of work. We would love to be part of an overall automation solution.
All right, seems like nobody else has any questions. That gives our viewers a great understanding and insight to not only what APEX-90 is capable of, but what it's like to maintain, own, and operate it. Before we wrap things up, Ben, I have one final question for you and one for Pat. So, Ben, we'll start with you.
Sure.
What is the single biggest misconception people have about APEX-90? Yeah,
I would say that it is difficult, right? And this comes from not that long ago. It was difficult. The amount of work you had to do to fixture a part, get it in space, and program it, and the number of things that could go wrong. That part tilts or twists or rotates or whatever. That's all gotten so much easier with simulation, and the ability to take a digital part into iGEMS and program that part means you can set that part up, and you could be cutting a part in minutes or hours instead of days. So things have fundamentally changed that way. If you haven't, if you tried it years ago and you kind of bounced off of it or struggled with it, take another look. It's fundamentally easier to do now.
All right, so technology has changed and we have progressed our ways.
Always.
It's way easier this time around. All right, very well. Patrick, one for you. What would you tell a manufacturer who's wondering whether this technology could open up new opportunities for their business?
Yeah, I think one, there's a few different aspects to look at it. WaterJet capability in general, very innovative, can bring a lot of processes, reduce a lot of problems, in-house technologies that you're currently using, can reduce a lot of issues and speed up a lot of processes you have. And then APEX-90 in general, it's really a question of what you can't do. And again, we touched base on it earlier, heat tempered glass, as well as cutting up to 90 degrees. If you can find an application that it can't do, I'm all ears. it's really opening up the doors. I think that the APEX-90's biggest strength is going to be getting the cutting head into small. It's a smaller platform, being able to cut off the carriage. It really opens up the doors for a lot of different applications that have not touched base with a WaterJet in a long time. You don't see it often, but they're definitely out there. And I think, again, the big question is going to be, what can't you do?
All right. So that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for joining and participating in this webinar. Ben, a special thank you to Ben and Patrick. Thank you for sharing your expertise and helping us explore what APEX-90 is really capable of. So if anyone here would like to schedule a demonstration or talk about their specific application, or see rather if it's the right fit for your operation, please feel free to fill out the form on our website. The team in the back end, if you can please copy the link in chat, click that, fill out the form, and an expert will reach out to you to help you out with your questions. Once again, thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
See ya.